everyone. Welcome back to another AWS On Air. My name is Aaron Hunter. I'm a technical trainer with AWS Training and Certification. And today we're going to talk about AWS Power Hour Architecting Pro with my good friend and also co-host, Greg.
Hello, Aaron. Great to be here. I am Greg Powell, Senior Startup Solutions Architect here at AWS.
Is that Greg Powell or Greg Power?
A little mixture of both. Depends on what day it is.
So this is the second part of our series here at the AWS Summit in Paris. So thank you for being here, everyone. And thank you to the On Air team for allowing us to talk about AWS Power Hour. If you missed the first part earlier today, we're going to go ahead and dive deeper into the AWS Power Hour Architecting Pro series. But first, Greg, where should they go on their browsers right now to find out more information about our series?
Yeah, awspowerhour.com.
If you type that into your chat or into your browser, then that will take you to this website here that says AWS Training and Certification on Twitch. And you can see that this is all of the on-demand content for all of our series that we host on twitch.tv/AWS. And if I can find my mouse here for a second, if we scroll down on the page, well, first, before we do that, there's a sign up button right here. And if you click on that, that will take you over to this page where you can have you can sign up for the email subscription where you get notified of new series and new episodes and even resources that can go directly to your inbox if you're studying for your certification. Going back over to the landing page for AWS Training and Certification on Twitch, we can scroll down and see all of the previous shows and series that we may have had. So AWS Power Hour Architecting Pro is one of them, and we're currently running AWS Cloud Quest Cloud Practitioner Season 2 with our 6th episode this Friday. So check out the landing page for more information about that. But Greg, let's go ahead and dive deeper into AWS Power Hour Architecting Pro and talk about these different episodes that we're going to cover today. Earlier today, we talked about episode 1 and 2. Should we cover episodes 3 and 4?
That's a good idea, Aaron.
All right, let's go ahead and do that. So scrolling down, we can see episode 1, designing new solutions for organizational complexity. Episode 2, designing new solutions or designing for new solutions. And we talked about how each of these is mapped back to a domain within the exam guide. But how do we get there? Well, we have resources here. So resources, and we can see that there's a landing page for the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Professional and the exam guide. But going down to episodes 3 and 4, which is what we're covering in this segment, we can see that these are still mapped back to the exam guide. And you can get there by going to, again, that resource in episode 1 will take you here, and you can scroll down toward the bottom after getting through all the details about the exam, and you can see the exam guide is right here. Now this exam guide, I'm gonna let Greg walk us through it here for domains 3 and 4, but it's like a recipe. And we talked about pies earlier, Greg. Now I'm hungry.
Yeah.
So we talked about pies and how there's a recipe for a pie. And this is really your recipe for your exam. And follow this. It's going to talk you through about what the target candidate description is, having 2 or more years of experience, the different response types, the number of questions that are on the exam, and how many of those go toward your score. So there are 75 questions, but 10 don't go toward your score, so you only have 65. And then we can scroll all the way down past the rest of this and see the domain breakdown. And this is where Greg's going to walk us through the last 2 domains here.
Yeah, so in looking at domains 3 and 4, Aaron, I'm noticing right off the bat, domain 3 worth 25%, domain 4 worth 20%. So all these are definitely weighted very heavily in the overall exam.
Yeah, 26% for domain 1, 29% for domain 2, 25% for domain 3, 20% for domain 4. That doesn't mean any of these are easy or difficult. It just means that's where the focus might be.
That's right. Got to be on your toes on all 4 domains, with domain 3 and 4 being the focus of our talk here now.
Yes. So we'll go down to domain 2, and you're going to kind of get like a sneak peek of domains 1 and 2. Did I say go down to domain 2? Go down to domain 3, and we'll see the first 2 domains kind of skim past, and we broke that down earlier, and we did an even deeper dive on it in the first 2 episodes of our series. So definitely check that out. But with domain 3, which maps back to episode 3 of our AWS Architecting Pro series, talks about continuous improvement for existing solutions. And each domain is separated or split into specific tasks where you have to have knowledge and skills. Now, Greg, task statement 1 for domain 3 says determining a strategy to improve overall operational excellence. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, so when I see operational excellence, that is one of the pillars of the AWS Well Architected Framework. And I'm looking for great operational oversight in my AWS environment and subsequently my AWS workloads. So for this first task, we're really focused on alerting and being able to automatically remediate certain issues that may happen from an operational standpoint. Disaster recovery planning is important here because if we have a hiccup in the architecture, how can you seamlessly and smoothly transition to a backup environment? Monitoring and logging with things such as Amazon CloudWatch to look at things such as security, metrics, utilization, CPU, and memory to determine how an application is operating, and even get it a little bit into DevOps, CI/CD pipelines and deployment strategies, blue-green, all at once, rolling deployments. These are all operational things that if done correctly, make sure your environment runs like a well-oiled machine, which is the goal of being a solution architect at the pro level.
Yeah, and I see some overlap between the domains and sometimes overlap between the task statements as well. Here, I'm already spotting an overlap between domain 2 and domain 3. So there might be some simpler areas for people to study as they're going for their exam. Recovery planning starts talking about, the difference of, is it all at once, or is it like a hot standby, or is it a warm, is it passive? And the CI/CD pipelines here with the deployment strategies kind of goes hand in hand with that, because if you have to have recoverability and repeatability for a deployment or multi-region deployment, that's something to be aware of. Now, domain 3 has different. Where did my mouse go? There it is. Domain 3 has more than just one task. We have task statement 2, where we start digging deeper into determining a strategy to improve security. And that falls back to something from domain 1, where it's not just network security, but it's overall security for like your data and secrets management and least privilege access. But if there's one thing that stands out to you here, what would that be?
I would say in domain 3, Aaron, the key is improving. So in the other domains, we had to come up with the security plan. Now in domain 3, the perspective is as an SA Pro, you've walked into an existing environment and you got to make it better. So domain 3 is all about looking through the lens of, okay, how can we make what's in front of us better? And from a security perspective, there's things you can look at. Do we have a data retention policy in place? Do we have a data sensitivity or data classification policy in place? What are our data regulatory requirements, if we have any, and so on and so forth? And this touches on some of the services that can put us in good shape for being able to improve security within your AWS environments.
Yeah, automatic remediation, you called that out. So using services like AWS Config as well. So that's called out here for like automated monitoring and remediation. But that also kind of goes into the skills area of doing an audit for least privilege, because what if you do an audit and you find out that someone has more privilege than they should? Well, you can actually use config rules to remediate those automatically and actually roll back too much permission. So pretty cool that way. Now, task statement 3 goes into, and by the way, everyone, we dive deeper into these if you go watch the on-demand video. So I know we're going pretty quick on this, but we go deeper into it for 90 minutes on episode 3. So go check it out, awspowerhour.com. Task statement 3 here, Greg, for domain 3. Determine a strategy to improve performance with knowledge of high-performing systems like instance fleets and placement groups. That seems like some pretty important stuff, while still having scale across the world by using like Global Accelerator or CloudFront to cache at the edge.
Yes, it is. So again, we're coming into an environment, just as I do kind of in my day job. If a workload is not performing as good as it should based on the demand that's hitting it, we need to take a look at how to improve it. There's a number of different things we can do. Some of the areas that could be fair game on your SA Pro exam would be being familiar with auto scaling, instance fleets, placement groups, as you mentioned, the global accelerator. These are kind of like the network and at edge things to cache data closer to your end users and these types of things. Then I think, Aaron, if we scroll down a little bit, we even have some more goodness here.
There's even more. So much goodness.
One thing I would call out is service level agreements. So what are the service level agreements between your customers and that underpinning workload? And depending on how stringent those SLAs are, you need to build the underlying AWS architecture to support that. Key performance indicators. So it's one thing to improve performance, but what are your key performance indicators to make sure that you're actually getting the performance that you think you're getting based on what you architected? There's also skills that are highlighted here about translating the business requirements into measurable metrics. That plays into being able to define your KPIs. And you'll have questions that kind of test you around this. And one other thing I'd point out, not only just improving the performance, but doing so in a cost optimized fashion. You don't just want to throw the biggest compute instance at the problem. You want to do so in a way that gives you high performance and the performance you expect, but also in a cost optimized fashion.
Yeah, right sizing everything. And you can use Compute Optimizer to help you figure out what that looks like. Or like Greg mentioned, KPIs, like what kind of KPIs you're going to set for yourself even that can help you identify, maybe you have too many resources in one area. Maybe your Lambda functions your code can be optimized. So you can create your own KPIs there too and use CloudWatch and CloudWatch metrics to be able to help monitor that and adjust as needed. There's a whole lot that we can dig into and we dive deeper into it in the third episode. Final task statement. Actually, no, we have two more within this domain, being very conscious of time here. Our fourth task statement in domain 3, determining a strategy to improve. Again, there's that word, Greg, improving reliability using the global infrastructure, data replication methods, high availability, resiliency. It's starting to all stack. We'll kind of skim past this one and go straight to task statement number 5 and say, identify opportunities for cost optimizations. Now we're getting even deeper into the improve architecture conversation because we're looking at cost and we want to stay as lean as possible. So if there's one thing here that stands out to you that maybe we dive deeper into on episode 3, what would it be?
Yeah, definitely. As I kind of mentioned earlier, get the performance you're looking for, but not at the expense of disregarding cost optimization. And task 5 keeps us accountable here to make sure we can yield the performance we're looking for and keep the dollars in our pockets as much as we can.
Yeah, and it's not mentioned here in the knowledge of, but I want to draw your attention to skills in the very bottom bullet, utilizing tagging for cost allocation and reporting. Tagging is going to be a critical component for any business to efficiently identify where that spend is happening, whether it be business unit or organization or team or project, whatever it might be. You come up with your tagging strategy, and we dive even deeper into that again in episode 3 of our series. So, Greg, yes, we have just over 5 minutes left. You think we can cover domain 4?
We can do it. All
right, cool. Domain 4, accelerate workload migration and modernization. We have a couple tasks. I believe there are 4 tasks here. The first task is split between 2 different pages, so we'll kind of read it out and then we'll scroll down. Select existing workloads and processes for potential migration. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to happen, but you're kind of assessing. So there's 3 different phases of a migration workload or a migration process. You assess, and then we break all that down for in domain 4. But here, migration assessment and tracking tools by using services like AWS Migration Hub. And then we can see here portfolio assessment, asset planning, and then prioritization and migration, or even doing something like a modernization at the same time could be something that you're aware of. So task statement number 2, Greg, you want to cover this? There's a whole lot here. Do you think you can cover?
Yeah, there's a lot here. let me try to chew through this. So yes, this domain and task is all about, you have something that's not in AWS. How can we get it in AWS in a smooth and controlled fashion? There's some tools here, Data Sync, AWS Transfer Family, Snow Family. Won't go in deep into each of those services, but these are different ways you can get data in, and you need to learn more about these services, because when you're asked questions, certain services will make more sense based on individual use cases to get data in.
Yeah, or even like identity services, like how do you federate your users that way they can work with the services or the data that you've already migrated over, or that you're in the process of migrating so they can set it up. Two things stand out to me with like databases: database migration service and schema conversion tool. So getting your data that's in a database, maybe it's a schema that's not your target schema. So you can have your database migration service, have schema conversion tool that's kind of in the middle, and then performing some, I don't want to say editing, but performing conversions of the schema, and then being able to leverage a different database type that may be more efficient for your workload based on today's standards. And yep, Greg, absolutely. You mentioned governance controls earlier. So here we see control tower in organizations, but you mentioned one more. What was that?
It was control tower, and let's see, the other one, let's see.
I think you mentioned landing zones.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, landing zones is kind of the mental model or the construct of what you want to build. And then AWS control tower is an AWS service that serves as a mechanism that allows you to be able to do that. And then AWS organizations is another good one for managing and governing your multi-account AWS accounts as well.
Yeah, and I mentioned that, Greg, because here it says, for example, AWS control tower and organizations, but it's not bound to just those two for the bullet. So be aware where a specific service will help solve a specific problem that is presented on the exam. So that's something just to be aware of. So skills in selecting the appropriate fill in the blank mechanism here, or migration strategy here. So task statement 3 says determining a new architecture for existing workloads. Ooh, that sounds like a pretty heavy lift. Sounds pretty complicated to me.
Yeah, like I say, when you move something into AWS, you might decide when you're in flight there, maybe the legacy architecture is not optimal and you want to do something more cloud native. This is what this particular task statement focuses on.
Yeah, and there's 7 R's of a migration strategy. So maybe you decide that you don't want to go serverless for now, or maybe your process can't afford you to go serverless because of licensing or something. So you can bring your own license, and knowing these existing workloads that maybe you have on-prem and determining new architecture, like launching an Amazon EC2 instance or using Elastic Beanstalk, which can launch your EC2 instances as well. Or even go with like a container service where you have EC2 instances running ECS or EKS, and we can go way in the weeds on that. But we do actually, episode 4. So check out episode 4 and come back and let us know. One more task statement here before we wrap up: determining opportunities for modernization and enhancements. Now, that's cloud native that Greg was talking about. So you migrate and modernize as part of your migration workflow. Serverless compute offerings, so Lambda for your compute, or using Fargate for your serverless containers. Amazon S3 or Amazon EFS. Amazon S3 for your object storage, EFS for your file storage. Purpose-built databases that are still serverless, like DynamoDB or Amazon Aurora Serverless. And integration services like SQS, SNS, EventBridge. Ooh, EventBridge. Greg, that's a very popular service right now.
Yes, it is. And it makes stitching different AWS services together easy.
Absolutely. All right, everyone, that's it for domains 3 and 4. Again, remember, go check out, let me go ahead and go back to that page here. Go check out awspowerhour.com, where it can take you to the AWS Training and Certification on Twitch page. You can find out more information all about our AWS Power Hour Architecting Pro series, which has 6 full episodes where we go deep into 90 minutes, okay, 90 minutes of content. And we have these 2 bonus episodes here where we do a final review of the entire series. And then we also have 90 minutes of Practice Makes Perfect, where you can watch us, I don't want to say struggle or stumble, but you can watch us explain the different questions, the response options, why one is correct, why one isn't correct. But thank you, Greg, for being here and walking us through this. Thank you to the AWS On Air team for allowing us to talk to each of you. Yes. And Enjoy the rest of the AWS Summit in Paris.